Let's call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Edwards,
Here.
Rivera Wilczek,
Here.
Larson,
Here.
Schneider, Ralph.
Yeah, just to make note, Marchant did say his ETA will be 10 minutes late, so. Okay, we'll start the meeting off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next item is citizens' time. Anybody who, any citizens who wants to stand up at the podium and give any comments, good. All COA residents can discuss the COA at their COA time. So we're good? Okay, we'll start off with minute approvals.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on December 18th, 2019.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anybody see anything they want to change? Okay, we'll put it up for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll submit the minutes then. Okay, now we'll move on to our COA agenda items. ZP 2021-001.
That's for Chick-fil-A. Yeah.
I'll give the intro. I'm sorry. So Chick-fil-A's here tonight to look at doing a dry storage unit that'll go to the right of the dumpsters. If you flip to package page 9, you'll see the overall schematic of the site, and you'll see there in the upper, depending on how you look at it, if you're in landscape, you'll see it over on the right of the paper. If you're looking at it in portrait view, it's the kind of upper left there. But the storage unit will be dry storage. It will be a matching structure to the dumpster enclosure that's already there. And you have in front of you, separate your packet, you have some printouts that were the roof colors there. I'm sorry, not roof, the metal colors, and then a brick sample. So at this time, I'll have the Chick-fil-A representatives come up, and if they have any additional information to share, or if the board has any questions regarding the structure, please feel free to ask at this time.
Hi, good evening. I'm Tony DeSanza, representing Chick-fil-A in regards to the proposal, and just here to answer any questions that you may have.
So, which color is it? Am I missing?
Oh, I'm sorry, if you flip to the next page, page 10, you'll have the French finish metal is in dark bronze, that's your upper side elevation.
So it's like all the other dark bronze that's up
Yes.
there? Okay.
The rear elevation, you have existing brick wall, and then you have the dumpster is, and then you're going to do a brick veneer to match on the new portion.
Okay.
And then in the front there, you will have brick to match, and then you also will have a door. So again, all your metal facing is going to be dark bronze. Everything matches on the dumpster.
Okay, I got a description for the roof being white. Is that the bone white of the metal part of it, or? We got the dark bronze metal. I think we got the roof, it says white on it.
Basically just an extension of what's already there. It's already an outside storage unit attached to them.
Right,
There's more there. But extension of that,
right.
just making it larger. So it's using the same material, same brick. Everything's still the same, it's just
Yeah, but this portion has a roof on it?
There's
Doesn't
an
it?
accessory building
Is
there
it?
already.
They should
Same colors then, right? It's just extending it out?
So are you putting another one or just making it larger?
making it larger.
Okay. Okay. Thought it was an additional structure. I didn't realize that it was.
It's not an additional structure.
Okay.
The structure is already there. It's just taking it 6 over to make it larger.
It's right there, addition. I should have read closer,
That's
sorry.
okay. And the door's already there, so the door's staying in the same place.
Okay.
Basically 6 more feet of
Perfect.
I just didn't know if the roof was in a new piece to the whole thing or not.
I think it seems like a flat roof or kind of a very low.
Yeah. I make a motion to approve ZP 2020-001 for the accessory storage building addition at 15185 Washington Street.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any last-minute questions?
I don't have any.
Okay, we'll put it up for a vote then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There you go. Mhm.
It's on the, that's funny, on the application it's right, but on our agenda it's wrong, so.
I believe that's the address for CVS, but.
Do you want me to make it?
We've had in our files a mix-up.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if you.
Can I amend my motion? Okay, I'd like to amend my motion to correct the address to 15180 Washington Street.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. I guess we'll put it up for a re-vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you for
There you go.
bringing that to my attention, so it was right.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
I'll be in touch with you next. You're welcome.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, next item, 2020-002.
This application is for a fence at 6732 Blight Drive. If you flip to your packet page 18, you'll see, if you have a color copy, you'll see a red line at the back of the plat that's represented here. That's where they would like to put the fence between the park property and their residential property. The fence will match the property on the end of the street at 6748. That is right on the corner of Light and Washington, and that picture can be found on 14. The HOA has provided approval of this application. I am recommending approval. Unfortunately, the applicants couldn't be here tonight due to other things going on. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and I will be in touch with them.
I make a motion to approve certificate of appropriateness, ZP 2020-002 for the rear fence located at 6732 Blight Drive.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and second. Any last minute
discussions?
Only observation I want to make, Mr. Chairman, is I had talked to Emily earlier about would the applicant want the option to have a gate, and then reading the materials here, they specifically said no gates. So I think they would want the opportunity to move back and forth if they want to get to the park. But
It's not, it doesn't go around to the house, it's just,
but if your neighbors enclose themselves, how are you going to get to the park? So it's just a suggestion. But if they don't want a gate, then that's it. No further questions.
Okay, well, any comments on Marchand's? Okay, we'll put it up for a vote then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, the next is ZP 2020-003.
So the applicants are here tonight to apply for a demolition permit for the accessory structures located at 6590 Jefferson Street. Just to give you a place of reference, that is details for the home just prior to the bridge over 66. If you flip to package page 25, you'll see here images of the existing barn structure. On the following pages, you'll have images of the wood structure, the garage and the wood shed structure. I also attached in here a overview, and I highlighted where these three structures exist so you can have reference top down of how they exist in relation to the building. I also on package page 29 put in the survey form that the town received from the Department of Historic Resources. They do list the barn as historic. However, I do want to make a note. I put in my staff report that there was limited data on the barn. So what I was trying to get across is that upon doing a Google research, I can't find anything regarding when it was built, if it's a specific style of a barn that was built of a certain time period, if there was a special use for this type of a barn structure. So I've had very limited abilities to find further historic information on it, but I did want to at least acknowledge that it was recognized as a historic barn. So what you have in your packet is what I readily had available when preparing this report.
Mr. Chairman.
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward, it would be helpful when we have demolition permits. Our legal counsel has given us criteria that we must consider for every building, regardless if it's a shed, a house, a firehouse, whatever. He has recently given us a list of criteria that we have to consider for for these demolition permits. And it would be helpful if the staff report addressed each of those items as we went down.
You're talking about the criteria in the zoning ordinance?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I would agree, and also, with the comp plan citations and the design guideline citations, if there's some general reference, that would be
Helpful. I feel like we need to get to a place where we're doing exactly the same thing every time.
So that's my question then is, if for whatever reason that building does address it, says like, yes, we can find information that is historic because it was built after 50 years, but if it wasn't, then we would leave that blank, or would we address it? I'm just asking so how you guys would like to see it.
Well, in our comp plan, and we have a list of structures in town that are considered historic.
No, I understand that, but you said based on the criteria. So like if you have to go through these certain criteria, is it this type of house? If it's like not that type, you want us to say
Yes.
this is
Yes.
what type it is, or
Right.
things like that?
Yes.
It starts to build a factual basis with which to either support or not support.
And it's just faster for the applicant. It's more expeditious for them when they come in, that all the research has been done and we don't take up their time and the other applicant's time with going over all of it.
Did you have some input on that? Of the criteria that
I think with
council gave us?
correct. So When reviewing it, it's kind of the three criteria. What is labeled as a contributing resource within the plan? And the zoning ordinance refers to a historic building as something that can be identified in the plan. The criteria in the ordinance, and then we have the criteria regarding the demolition and the design guidelines. So certainly guidance we were given from Martin before is that we should make certain findings or conclusions about each of those elements. It's not as complicated for the kind of straightforward fence permits and those types of things, or these particular with the resources in question. Or for instance, like tonight, I think a more definitive, or potentially a more supportive position is to say this is not a resource identified by the resource list in the comp plan. Okay, that's one criteria. It's 50 years old and therefore historic by the ordinance, but for these other elements would not be appropriate for either support or denial. And then the other criteria and the design criteria, which say, as part of a demolition permit, provide a narrative explaining
Right.
what options have been done. Having all those materials together help us initially kind of make kind of that fact or a statement of fact. We could take some findings about the application. So I think that would be a helpful analysis to have. It's kind of like with the special use permits that the town has looked at recently, the rezonings. You have all that criteria in there. Something similar to that sort of analysis. Any other comments on?
No, I think they're good. I think it's something that doesn't need to be addressed now. I think I want to put off for new business is recommending like a flow chart, go through a site survey, all that kind of stuff. And a checklist of things that we can do. The question I have for the board is, do you feel we have enough information on this to try to make some type of decision tonight? I mean, we are looking at a piece of architectural structures that aren't the primary link to the property.
Correct.
And I think the applicants are on a time schedule in which they do want a decision as quick as they can get one.
I made my assessment with the information I have, and I assume that the structure was really historic because of the age, you know, the 50 years plus. I went on location and I took several pictures, and it just looks like that.
Yeah, I kind of agree. There's really not much. I think it's historic just by the ordinance. Nothing more, and I don't really have an issue.
It's probably just the design of the outbuildings and for the time period that they were built, that's how they were designed. But as far as making a difference to the main structure, I don't think it.
Anything from you, Marshall?
Just in my reviewing the materials, we've gotten in that pickle before where we're told we're not to consider the development plans as part of our analysis, although that's what's being described here is we want to move these to build some other structure. I think what is unique about this property is the fact that the Garrett house, the house that is on the property is listed as a contributing
Yes.
resource. So to me, if it's to say we're able to maintain that resource and still get relief on the property, have additional development potential, that's something to be said. So these as accessory buildings, I think, is a qualifier. We have a historic structure on the property. We have these accessory structures. They're not listed specifically as structures. The woodshed, I think, the time that I worked at the town, I don't ever remember that getting permitted. The garage seems a very utilitarian sort of basic structure that I think photographic documentation would just say it's very utilitarian. It's kind of, a lot of the structures in town are very utilitarian for the time. They're practical. The barn, the only thing I can, reading through the survey, only make heads or tails of it may have been the structure that supported the house when it was first built. Pole barn, carriage house, maybe it's a pole barn, carriage house. So it may be worth, I think, reaching out to try to do some additional documentation. When I spoke with Emily today, the landowners had this for a significant amount of time. They may have some additional information to account for it. Photographic.
Yeah.
You know, if it is a pole barn, there's probably some unique architectural features inside. I was not able to go inside and look at it, but that additional research may be helpful. Site visits, one of the other suggestions, we do a site visit. I don't know if you feel necessary to do a site visit. But I would recommend or suggest that we talk with Emily about trying to run down some additional research. We have the PWC, just for the barn. We have the, do we still have a resource, Emily, at the PW? Who was the woman that came out and did the tour with us?
The historic.
Yeah. Is it worth a phone call to her to say, do you have any information that may be available on it? And go from there. This is where an architect would be helpful to describe in detail that. But it would really be just more of a documentation of the history and documentation of the construction methods used to build the barn.
Correct.
Other than that. Certainly, if they're able to repurpose it, I don't think we would want to preclude them saying you have to demolish it. If they wanted to, if it's in condition where they can take it down and rebuild it somewhere else on the property, I would certainly encourage that. You don't see that before, too, where people will, you have folks that go and take barns, take them down and reuse them. But I've not been able to determine the analysis of it. So that would be helpful, too, is if there was any sort of structural analysis that was done just to support our position, to say, hey, there was some analysis that was done and further backs whatever our position is. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Does anybody have any questions on this?
I did think of one other thing. One of the, I guess, under scrutiny of our decision on the building across the street, during the council meeting, it was that, or suggestion that we did not give equal weight or explanation of our approvals versus denials. It does say in the ordinance that if we disapprove an application, we're supposed to be very specific. So if the consensus is to support this with conditions or approval, that we may have some general findings as to why that might be the case. And if we want to take a break, we can try to run those down real quick.
You want a structural analysis made, right?
No, I'm not saying, it would have been helpful to have that sort of analysis, especially if it had been listed as a contributing resource. I'm thinking maybe as a condition, just some addition, have Emily talk to the owner, talk to Prince William County, just to see if there's any documentation that can be added.
Photographic or.
That can be added to the file so that we have available if we need that information in the future.
Up at the microphone, if you don't mind, thank you.
I'm Mr. Zupan's representative. He's in Florida, and I've asked him if he has any information on the barn, and he does not. So I'm not sure where it would come from.
Okay.
Right.
He's had the property since, I think, 1989, he said, but he has no information on,
Okay.
on that facility.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So our only leading source of information would be the historic, the resource at PwC.
And it's only, or doing our own research at Relic, but again, given that being an accessory structure, just a barn, I don't.
Right.
I'm not thinking extensive research, just.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we have photographs of them. They're part of the packet, so we can add that to the.
Wow.
And this is, I have a question. This is treated as the demolition 3 buildings. It cannot be breaking down until we find out about this history.
No, you can. I
We
mean, it
have a-
wouldn't take any time at all to.
We have a couple of options. If we wanted that information to come back before we make our decision, we could delay it a month or defer it to the next meeting, or we can have some sort of condition with it to say, provide this research before the building comes down, or something, before the permits are filed to take it down. Just for the barn. I'm not thinking of the other ones.
You have any preference? Uh-huh.
Or he's going to say, I want the decision tonight.
Well, I think I heard you mention that you know this is in anticipation of doing a new building. That's the only reason we're taking these 3 down. If we get approvals to do the new building, that's when the demolition would occur. I'm not gonna mobilize just to take those 3 buildings down. We wanna do the new building, take those down, to save time.
Okay.
So it would be a while.
So we would have time
It would be a
to
while, yes.
take the picture, photograph inside, outside, and then get the information from the historic.
If available.
It might not be.
Yeah, considering, like you said, it's a,
Okay. I mean, that's fine with me.
yeah.
Do we want to come up with some findings, or I guess let's do, Mr. Chairman, do we want to take a straw vote on this? And then if it's in support of that, we can maybe take a minute and write up some findings real quick, and then.
There's no official vote since we don't have any type of a motion out yet.
Correct.
But what is the consensus? What would go through what each person would prefer to see out of this?
I think I'm okay with what we talked about, where we, I guess, approve it conditionally after that we get all that, but that we get all that information and have it be logged, I guess. Photographs taken, all that, and considering we do have time, because he's not gonna take down the building until he's ready to build, so.
Yeah, and so we'll have to have a building, or a building plan review come by us then, right?
Correct.
So,
He has to go through the planning commission and all that kind of stuff. so.
Exactly.
I'm the same, that just document the barn, if we can take the interior, document the construction methods, see what Emily can do, and be fine with it.
How about you?
I second
Okay.
motion.
yeah, I think we're all in
Feel.
Okay.
consensus.
Okay, do we want to, we can take a motion on the table, or do we want to do, I guess the consensus, do we want to do some sort of conclusions? It's not a contributing resource, it's,
You can say that in your motion.
okay, I need a minute to put those
Okay.
Put
together.
all that together, yeah.
You want to
Okay,
take a
5 minutes?
5 minute?
And get your motions
Sure,
together?
I can do
Okay.
that.
We'll take a 5-minute recess.
No conversations on the dais. But too soon? Okay. Do we have Word on here, Emily?
Yes. No, we don't.
Just be able to pull it up through Google.
Google?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. We call this meeting to order again. We all set? You guys ready? Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. We shall proceed.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the Architectural Review Board, ZP 2023, to demolish 3 accessory structures located at 6590 Jefferson Street, based on the following findings and conditions. The first finding, structures are not listed as contributing structures on Table 16, Historic Building Inventory of the Town's Comprehensive Plan. The accessory structures are accessory to a existing historic resource, namely the Garrett House, as listed on Table 16, Historic Building Inventory of the Comprehensive Plan. Removal of these structures would allow for continued use of the primary historic resource on the property. Also, based on the following conditions regarding the barn structure, that staff coordinate photo documentation of the interior and any clear construction methods used to build the barn, and also following up with the Prince William County, do we know what their title is?
It's Prince William County Historic Resources, I think.
Prince William County Historic Resources Division regarding any materials they might have describing any events, places, or architectural descriptions of the barn structure. That's all I have.
Second.
Okay, for us simple-minded folks, I want to clarify, we're saying this is a motion to approve under these findings?
Correct.
And we got, okay.
And with these conditions.
And with these conditions. Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any questions by anybody? Okay. Yeah, we'll do a roll call vote on this one.
Edwards,
Yes.
Fairwashik,
Yes.
Person,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Corral.
Yes.
So
Okay.
Emily will get you your,
So Emily will work with you on what's required. Okay.
Good. There's no requirement of this, but as I said earlier, if there's ability to move it and put it elsewhere on the property, we'd be more than happy to talk to you about how to make that work, if that's,
Well, I'm sure it would be the preference of the owner not to do that.
okay. I said no requirement, just a suggestion. Sometimes, well, the town would never allow us to re-put it on, well, no, don't, never say never, you know.
It's like a lot of the other structures, it's just kind of old, dilapidated,
Yep.
and crumbling.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go on to the next agenda item, the ARB bylaws.
All right, thank you all.
thank you.
So in your packet, you had the bylaws as we had discussed at our last meeting with the updates we had discussed. Since then, you have been provided a copy of Martin's edited bylaws. So if you want to take a moment to kind of peruse those, he did take out certain sections. We provided a red line version as well as a clean copy for you. Just to kind of go through if you want to follow along on the one that was handed out, red line. He tweaked Article 1 some to have a different intro there. The duties of the members, he added in that. He has taken out the membership with the comment that the town code section already states all of the membership comments here and the requirements, and since it's referenced there in the town code, we did not need to restate it in the bylaws.
Can I stop
Yes.
you right there? My problem with that is that a lot of times when people are looking for things for the ARB, they're not gonna wanna go to the town code, the bylaws, the guidelines. They are gonna wanna see it all in one place for them to say. My suggestion is if we can ask Martin to leave it in there, but say, referring to code section, and then list it, and then this is the membership and how it's made up.
So I did speak to him today, and what he suggested instead of doing that is actually making an addendum. So then at the back of basically the bylaws, we would have an addendum, and then it would say membership of ARB as referenced in code section such. So it'd be still a part of the bylaws, it would just be on the backside attached.
I think the challenge would be is that anytime, if the zoning ordinance gets changed, we gotta change the bylaws. So I think if that's, I guess your suggestion would mean by being attached, if those changes happen, we don't have to re-adopt?
Well, so it'd just be an addendum,
Okay,
so you would add it on the backside, so it's the same thing where the same thing, like if you guys want to add something from the comp plan, it'd just be an addendum, this is
Okay.
what's on there, like, I don't think it would be out of the question, guidelines or whatever, to add the historic structures as like an addendum just on the backside. So instead of it being part of the document itself, it's just on the backside attached, so it's still part of the same document. And that's what he had suggested when I spoke to him today.
It's just very frustrating that he finished it at noon today, and we had our meeting tonight, so that doesn't give you much time to research, to go over, and he made a lot of changes to it.
Yeah, but that was one, him taking the membership out, I discussed it with him, how he would suggest having it in this document, that's what he said, an addendum on the backside, at the end of it, is how he would do it.
If the board feels more comfortable taking the next month to review, we can certainly table this until February, since it was, this version was late due to, we're okay with that.
We can try and add the addendum and things like that, to show you what it would look like.
I'm more comfortable with that, to add the addendums and see how it all looks as one document, as opposed to
this would also be helpful, so along the lines, I think earlier is where it refers to the historic district overlay that we're to administer. It allows us to do the guidelines, which we consult, and then Chris's point about, pointing to the plan, relevant plan policies. I think that all has it in one document as to where, the 3 guiding documents that regulate our decision-making. So I think that would be helpful, too.
Yeah.
But you need a motion to,
Well, what information do you want to be added in the addendums? So I know that you just off the cuff said information, but we need to know what specific so we can add it.
You just talked about, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say real quick on his draft on page 6, so he has added an article for consideration of applications of certificates of appropriateness. He's also added Article 10, architectural guidelines, the execution documents. So he has added those 2 items in. So certainly review those, let us know if there's additional necessary addendums to have, or if, for instance, the membership, the historic structures list, et cetera, is plenty.
Come up with some ideas on that. Okay. Do we going to go through more of the changes, or?
No,
I mean, if you guys want to discuss it now, we can, because as of right now, the only addendum that'll be put in the back of this will be the town code section for membership.
how about historic structures?
Or do you want the historic structures as well?
That's actually an addendum right now to the design guidelines. So we can just add it to the bylaws as well.
Anything that he's pretty much marked out saying it's part of a town code or part of any reference, I think should be included, right?
What's that?
In the addendums?
Any information that was pulled because it was a reference to the town code, and anything
Oh, I
that was
see what you're
referenced
saying.
should be part of the addendum. So what do we got here?
So
I think he references like section 58-14.6.
So there should be an addendum for membership.
And then 15.2 through, what is that, 1419? That's Virginia code. Are we including Virginia code stuff
No,
in here?
1549, that's the matters to be considered when acting on a certificate of appropriateness.
Yeah.
That's the criteria that Martin was
Yeah.
suggesting we detail with each.
What page are we on?
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the town code. This is 58-14-9 of the zoning ordinance. That's not listed in here. I took this to mean when he refers to the board is appointed by the council to advise the town regarding historic preservation and to administer the historic district overlay. The historic district overlay is the article in the zoning ordinance.
Yes.
Which means all the requirements of that district fall under that provision.
So that should be in an addendum.
So we probably want to say is, and here is, to be more clear, is to say administer section or Article 10 of the zoning ordinance historic district overlay,
Yes.
just to be specific. Okay.
Yes, to reference the specific item or items.
Okay.
Here.
Because what he does on the page 2, on the Article 1, on number 2, he does quote the code section talking about
Correct.
us adopting bylaws and those types of things. So. And the bylaws are more for our
Yes.
benefit,
No,
but I think having
absolutely.
all those elements makes sense. So.
And did you already say this, and I was just reading and I missed it, those criteria that he gave us should go in Article 9. Look at Article 9.
Yes, consideration of applications. I think we do is generally, he says this elsewhere in here. Emily, correct me if I'm wrong. Generally, when you cite like a code or a state code, you'll reference it and then say as amended. from time to time.
Right,
So I think we just say here, in addition to these considerations of applications for certificate of appropriateness, the board shall also consider the matters per section whatever as may be amended from time to time. So,
He covers that in Article 10 as well.
have some overall comments when we're, all right.
Maybe if you,
You know, what are they? I mean, if you still have comments, that's,
No, just overall comments. I was just waiting for anybody else that has comments. I just wanted to make some observations. So last month, what I understood correctly is that we have always had in the ordinance a requirement, a shall have an architect, surveyor, or engineer. We've always had that. What I understood last month's conversation, but we've not been able, because that person has to be a resident, we have not had the opportunity, we've not been able to find someone to be appointed by the
lives in the
council to
town.
be on the
Okay.
board. The last architect we had was someone that was outside of town, but was given, at some point, given votership. So I understood the exercise last month was to try to find a way so that an architect could be placed on the board to provide us the support for our decisions. So we also talked about having a commercial person get added, a commercial owner be allowed to be on the board as well. But what the guidance tonight is we can't change the ordinance.
no.
So, but what Chris and I talked about today, or Emily talked about today, was we can hire, this is what you've been doing right now, is looking at an architect that we can hire as a consultant, much like Martin is our on-call,
Yes.
did I say this correctly, our on-call attorney. We can have that, but they're expensive, they cost money. If you have an architect come in on specific projects, like the hotel, when it came in, we could have had it on there. I would agree with folks.
Demolition permits can be
Demol-
reviewed.
Describing the architecture, giving us some of the language, the vocabulary that we need if we're at a standstill. So it sounds like even with falling back to what the ordinance says, that doesn't preclude us from having that consultant, correct? Okay. So I think we're fine.
it's
with
just
that.
something, so my suggestion is, we do have some money since the board is not fully intact with the full 7 members, so there is money that's available, but if that's something you all really want during the budget cycle, I would make a recommendation for that consultant. And then we can try and ballpark how many hours it would be. And
But just to be clear, we're at a lower membership because the council asked to keep the boards down to a lower membership last year at budget time. Not because people aren't volunteering, I just want to make that clear. That at budget time last year, that was talked about.
I wasn't here during that time.
Yeah,
But
but-
I'm just saying, there is money associated with the ARB because of that reason. So there is
Yes,
some money
yes.
available, so some questions we may be able to address this fiscal year, but more than likely, if we want some substantial help, it'll have to wait until July. So I would encourage recommendation or you all.
But I think that we discussed, Chris and I discussed, that if there are things now, we could just have them review it for us. And, not come sit through a meeting, but actually review the documentation or if some kind of demolition permit came or something like that, that they could review it for us. Maybe it would be a lesser cost to the town, but we would still get the information that we require.
There's a cost for them to evaluate, there's a cost for them to be here.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
you're saying maybe have them just provide their comment. Or I
Absolutely.
think part of having them up on the dais is being able to
Ask questions.
ask questions and being able to help us. So it must be case by case basis. I agree.
Until we get to where it's actually budgeted. We're in the middle of a budget cycle, so that has not been budgeted
Gotcha.
for the time that we're in now.
Chris, you're saying we have a vacancy savings right now is what you're saying that we
Yes.
can
Yeah,
use to-
very small.
Okay.
It's not a substantial amount of time, like 1 or 2 meetings maybe.
Okay.
So that's just where, more of a review stance would probably work out better until we can actually budget for something like that.
Okay. The other question I'd asked was just, I had questions last month about the council also reviewing and adopting our bylaws. So it does say in the code that we are to adopt and those bylaws. I think Emily had a good explanation today, which is to say, because the council is an appellate body, that they would want to similarly conduct their review of our materials in a way that we did, kind of like de novo. So having that and their familiarity with it. What I think
Yes.
needs to be, what I think was sometimes misstated, or not intentionally misstated, but sometimes we come across as that we're an advisory body only. And I do think it's clear that we are an independent decision-making body, so our decisions tonight have effect. This is unlike the planning commission, where the planning commission is a recommending body, they don't have decision-making authority. I think sometimes the impression is we make a decision, but that doesn't, it's recommended, it doesn't have to be followed. I think that's.
We don't pass it on to the council for
Correct.
the only way
So-
it goes to the council is if there's an appeal or something like that.
When I say advisory, yes, on matters regarding, we advise on these things, we're advising on the policy when the comp plan comes through. So yes, we are strictly we are advisory, but not, we have the ability to make independent decisions. So it makes sense that we'll adopt these, once we adopt them, include our vote, and then you guys will
Send it
forward it
on.
to the council. So that's all other amendments, Mr. Chairman, seem to make sense to me.
So what are we doing? Are we waiting until
No, if
Staff
we're in no
can-
rush, yeah, let's try to.
staff can put all those addendums together and attach it all and in a clean copy?
So addendum of the membership, what did you say, addendum of the
Reference, bylaws, I think, so that's what we
Article
talked
10,
about.
Article 9.
or make reference under Article 9 to the ordinance criteria, and then add the historic district inventory as an addendum as well.
And then what we'll do, as soon as we add the addendums, we'll send it back out to you all, and then if you all can help us out and anything that you
But
feel
don't reply
needs to be
all,
added.
just make your comments and
Yeah,
send it
directly.
individually to them.
But yeah, so we'll send it out, and then if you all have comments or things that you think should be added, or let us know, we'll add it and just continue to send it out, so hopefully next month then. Because what I'd like to do is I'd like to get this to a point where you all are happy with it, and then I can send it to Martin to review it a little bit sooner, so that we can then have his review finalized and hopefully be done with it in February.
Thanks for getting it through.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion for,
No, ma'am.
no, nothing? Okay.
Okay. Well, I guess we can move forward with new business.
The only question I had is, as we were discussing the 5814.9, just talking about staff going down this list of all the different items in the town code, if you all will humor us, and if we can go down line by line and figure out who should, whether it's staff, the applicant, the architect, if they were to review it, or ARB as the body, so that everybody's on the same page moving forward. We can make sure that staff will do what staff needs to, and we can ask the applicant, so when it comes to you all, it's squared away, ready to go.
The applications are complete.
The applications are complete, you've got all the information that you will want, and then the, couple of things that you all will have to discuss and decide for yourselves. Those are the only things that you all will, that's what you'll be dealing with in the meeting, and then it should be done. So if you all don't mind going through that.
And this is for, strictly for COAs for demolition?
This would be for everything, since it's matters to be considered by the board, enacting on appropriateness of erection, reconstruction, alteration, restoration, and demolition.
So anything other than signs.
Signs.
Okay. Well, let's, I guess, try to step through it.
It's 8 items, and then number 8 is, they're A through H. So it's only a couple, so I think it's really just a consensus between you all who should do what.
Do you want us to read them out?
Yeah.
Number 1, the exterior architectural features, including all signs which are subject to public view from a public street, way, or place.
Let me stop just a second. So Chris, your interpretation, or and Emily, your interpretation, we have to do, because it's all matters, we can't specify it to the analysis toward demolition?
We certainly could, but since the way the section header here is phrased in the ordinance, that since we have to look at all 8 of these for every application, that it would be consistent across all applications.
I was looking at number 6, which says specifically in the case of a building to be raised,
Right, so in that one, it would be specific to,
you wouldn't apply it to all of them. Okay. I guess what we're talking about is a question of degree, correct? The idea was, so,
real
maybe, sorry.
Real quick, if I may, one thing I was just mentioning to Chris when you guys brought this up previously is, maybe a better discussion, if you flip to one of the applications in your packet, let's just say page 12, maybe a better discussion is, do we separate out the COA application to have 1 through 8 as applicable, and then you guys give guidance on, for example, number 1, exterior architectural features, including all signs which are subject to public view from a public street, way, or place. It might be, sure, Emily, you can give the features of the sign. However, if it's a demolition and you don't know the architectural terms, then we would suggest you seek the architect's consulting review.
Right?
So it might be a better maybe use of our time to think of it as, do we look at separating that application to better get the information you need to properly review? Because right now, this is all our application is. And so when you say narrative, plan, plat, or specification sheet, there's not much there.
I think what my intent is for your recommendation, not necessarily application, but your recommendation would include those items, to tick that off your list so we have the proper information. That was my intent. So when you give your recommendation, so I give my recommendation for approval based on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and cover those. And sometimes it's quite possible that one of the numbers is not going to be applicable to that application. So you would just say not applicable.
Or even if it's
Okay.
go ahead.
So
That was my intent, me personally.
With
I
that-
don't know if that's what the board was.
with that intent in mind, so I would ask of the board, for example, on 8, and this has come up before, so as staff, I've been told to keep a neutral position on applications and present just the facts as they stand in the ordinance. For some of these items on 8, A through H, I don't feel that to keep a neutral position, that I should give a recommendation on, is
Okay,
this
maybe that was the wrong way to put it.
I'm not trying to make it complicated, I just want to be on the same page so that when a recommendation is put forward, if I don't say that, yes, this is going to increase.
Okay, so I misspoke. What I'm saying is, address each of the items, just factually,
Okay.
not,
Well, you used to have, one of your reports I saw, you reviewed it and has met, in your analysis, has met the design guidelines. That's all I'm looking for is a citation, kind of a general, kind of a checklist. When it comes in for a demolition permit, unlike some of the other applications, demolition permit requires the comp plan. So all it says, reviewed against the comp plan, and this or no. Evaluated against this criteria, here's some things maybe of note, otherwise you reviewed against it. And then the design guidelines they have met, providing, so it's like a checklist each time. Does that make sense? So it's not meant to, each time you fill out a zoning permit for a fence, you have to go through every single one on all 8. It's just more of the way you format it to say, okay, these are all the things you look at, here's how you.
Do you remember which staff report that was that you said you liked it on, so that we can,
That was useful on, yeah, I can do some research on that,
okay, because then at least we'll have something to start with, and we
yeah.
can make sure we hit that.
So it makes our, we're going to see more complicated applications quickly with all the interest in town. And being able to kind of organize it in that way each time helps us
Exactly, so
look
that's,
it up.
if we can figure it out moving forward, this is just how we do it from
Okay.
now on, then
It treats all the applications equally and
everybody's treated the
equitably.
same way,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
equitably.
You all get all the same information, and it just kind of smooths everything over. So-
Yeah, and like recommendations, when there are red flags, this is dealing with the building that is a historic
Resource,
contribution
yeah.
or something, right then you should automatically be going, well, that means we should be doing some type of site survey before the council as a whole should be doing a site survey, which means, you got to go through the public announcement that we're all meeting to go see this building and
Oh, for a site visit.
yeah, for a site visit, stuff like that. But, some of those critical ones were flagged so that we can review it ahead of time, so we're not like, surprised at the meeting in which our discussion all of a sudden just starts then for it, because it's inevitable that it'll be tabled every time, right? So any type of prep work that we can do would be better. So whenever that's, you see a good red flag like that, good communication to the applicant to say, hey, we got to go through this process first, just so that they are level set with their expectations on whether they're going to get a decision at the meeting, or whether you bring us in before so we can prep for the meeting by doing a site survey or something like that.
Emily, on the application form, there's like a checklist of materials. Maybe that's one way to look at it. To say for demolition permits, these are the kind of minimum data points you have to submit as part of it. Maybe that's the way we do it, and then that way, it's predictably, you get the same information each time.
Yeah.
We have that on there, but it's not been updated in quite a while.
Yeah.
So for like demolitions, for as you mentioned, like a site survey, since that's not part of our policy now, is that something you guys want to move to change? Because it's not part of the policy. I just want to make sure, and this is more a question maybe the business manager researches with council, is that something I can make sure we require so that if I tell the applicant, well, they have to do a site survey first, I don't want us to be held in this, well, you can't actually require that. I don't want us to get in trouble in that way.
Let's think about it this way. What are the basic elements for us to evaluate the appropriateness of an application, right? Sometimes we just get a photograph, and that's it. The criteria talks about a narrative, explaining what's been done, what alternatives have been looked at. So to me, one of the checklist items is, have you provided the narrative? They don't have to do a site survey, but tonight was a good example of the barns. We had pictures, we had a description, we had a layout of the buildings from the survey. We had some basic documentation that was available to us to know orientation, to generally be able to see the architecture that's done and understand its relationship to the other buildings. Those sort of basic kind of tenets for each time. I think most of the questions we're going to ask when we get a building, what analysis have you done? When they say it's not fiscally, what is one of those things? It's one thing we always get a kind of a, when someone just comes in and says, I don't want to do it. Okay, that's fine, but that's not our criteria. Our criteria is we have to evaluate against these things. So having that narrative, rather than having to come in and say, can I have that information next time? Or delay it a month, and then we get critical for not being helpful or being business friendly, then we have that basic information. That's why I feel like sometimes we don't have these narratives, we don't have these explanations. So maybe we toy around with a checklist for demolitions and go from there.
So what we'll do at the February meeting with town council, I will request if Emily and myself can update some of these forms to bring them up to date and up to speed, to provide enough information that, like you all said, that we consistently ask, and that's what pushes it back a meeting. So then this way we'll just update the forms, request council to do it. I don't see why that'd be an issue. Every so often you want to update forms to make sure that it provides the correct information. And then once we do that, we'll try and move forward. And that'll also give us time that after the February meeting when we discuss, we can try and come up with some draft information and see if it's along the lines that you all feel is appropriate. Does that work?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we did have enough information for Marchant to put down in his motion all those criterias to defend why we made our vote.
I was going to say as well, in the bylaws, if we wanted to add it, you could also have independent site visits. So,
I'd like to ask you about that. Do we have to have it in the bylaws to be able to do it?
well, you don't have to. I mean, most of this stuff, it's based on public right-of-way view. So like the Chick-fil-A, it's open to the public, so if y'all wanted to go
Typically,
look
when I
at
see
it.
an application, the town isn't that big.
Yeah.
You're out and
Walk by
about,
it.
you can see where the building is and all that kind of stuff and drive around.
So that's, it's not necessary that ARB goes together. If you want to go independent, especially in this case, it's right next to a parking lot to an active business. So, and it's only, 100 yards away from town hall. So it's just one of those things where do you really want to have everybody meet here, and then if there's other people that want to come, and then all try and walk down Jefferson Street or, somewhere to do that site visit versus, you get the application Thursday, Friday, and you've got the weekend and Monday, Tuesday to go look at it.
Yeah.
So
The
but
option,
we'll
yeah.
work on the forms at least, and that way, hopefully we'll be able to address the majority of it just comes down to, it's just not enough information when they first come for the demolition permit. So if we can address that, then I think we'll be going in the right direction. If we need to update it a couple times, I don't think it's out of the question to, update forms a couple times to ensure everybody gets the right information the first time. So we can start working on that.
I think it helps you guys as well, so that way we're generally predictable every time we go through it. That point on site visits, so in the bylaws, if we want to do a site visit as a group, should we add a citation in the bylaws that says that? In the Article 9? Is that something you can think about if Martin?
I'll talk to
I
Mark
don't-
about it at our next call.
I don't see why we can't on our own, but if we need to be clear that a site visit is potential, so. Okay.
Okay. Any more discussion on this? Okay, we'll move on. Any other new business?
I don't know if this is new business or old business. I just wanted to, since I was off as liaison for a while and I came back, I just want to know what adjustments can be done administratively. Like, what have you guys given Emily guidance to? That we, you know what I mean? That don't have to come before us, like fences typically, what else was there?
I think we said anything that's out of sight and the public view, and most small things, I think is what we
Okay.
agree on.
Just lumped patios and decks.
Yeah.
And the shed, if it was completely out of view.
I'm still concerned about that addition on that house in Green Hill Crossing, that it didn't come to us.
We approved one a while ago. Didn't we approve an addition? It's not the same one? I thought maybe it might just be the same one. Yeah.
Let me look it up and see
There was one we did recently. It was a two-story
She
addition.
said she
Shouldn't
thought it
have-
was administratively done.
No,
That's
no.
why I asked.
It came here to the board.
Okay.
It did, because it was that two-story addition.
Mm-hmm.
We had them come here and they showed the board that it was, if you were walking between the houses, you would see it, but truly, if you look down the side of it.
Okay.
It was
And
out of
the-
view, but it came here.
And the condition was that it matched. It was the same materials. and
Because I
same-
drove by and saw, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a huge,
The way you described it, I think that's one we already,
it's a hot mess over there right now. And, I mean, it's,
Well, the builder broke like the sewer. It was an
when they were
accident.
digging.
When they were digging, yes. So he had to fix that
I
before
mean, it is
he got into anything else.
it's a mess over there, isn't it?
Yes, but the construction, you're gonna see mess,
Yeah.
but the plat and the addition, it's actually, it's gonna fuse, so when it's built, you're not gonna see
Okay.
that. It's the same as the one behind Steve Aiken, the house. They had that whole entire addition in the back.
Yeah,
the
that was
neighbor
a
across
long
from
time
you.
ago.
Yes, but it's that type. It's only like one little
Mhm.
section, and
Okay. I just had asked, and
Yeah, and
then,
I'm sorry that I misspoke when we talked earlier, that it did come through.
okay, all right. But anything that's not, Ayush, what you said, that's not from public view, okay,
Yeah, I think that's generally what we said. I think for most small things, patios, decks, as Emily mentioned earlier.
anything like that,
The fence this month you had wanted because it was against the park?
yeah.
Would it
Yeah,
be-
you guys hadn't given administrative approval.
Okay.
Really? Okay.
Put it on the to-do list.
Okay.
Okay. Any more new business? Okay, we'll move on to old business.
Bless you.
Bless you.
thank you.
Okay, next item then, planning commission update.
Nothing since our last meeting. Just Haymarket Hotel Ventures, final site plan was approved previously. But no update since then. The next meeting for, planning commission is Monday, so I'll have updates next meeting.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, that's right.
Monday's
We
holiday.
moved- Yeah.
Oh, Chick-fil-A wanted to go to planning commission next week. That's what it was.
That's what the Tuesday reference
Yeah.
was, yeah. I guess a question for you in that, the site for the hotel. I think there was a buffer
No, I don't
In
think
the-
they had a
in-
buffer issue.
in the back. Didn't they request like, I think, a buffer
They made
reduction?
No,
They made no special request exceptions, no waiver requests. It's
Hmm.
all met the zoning ordinance requirements
yeah, I
For
think-
the hotel.
for the
Yeah.
hotel.
yeah, the only
Yeah.
thing we had asked of them was the lighting, and they fixed that, and they came out swinging with the fantastic site plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good, because I think they mentioned in our conversations that they might have to request a buffer reduction for the back piece, but,
No,
so that didn't happen?
No?
Okay.
What was the lighting issue?
it was just we didn't like lighting.
Oh, we did that, though.
That was us, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then they came back to the planning commission with everything like together.
Oh, set up, okay,
Yeah.
I got
That's
it.
awesome. Sorry, no. Yeah.
No, it's like,
fixture.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah. Okay, any more questions for planning commission? Okay, we'll move on
No.
to, yes,
no, never mind. I'll wait till-
we'll move on to town council update.
So we had, kind of a weird, the public hearing for the property over here, was held open. And then the applicant came and decided that they were changing their design for the project. We closed the old public hearing, and now it's re-advertised, and it's still townhomes, and then a private school, and another building on the side for commercial use, but they have not said what it would be.
Right, and this is outside Haymarket property, right?
No.
No, this is
You
within.
talking about
okay.
the one right off,
It-
in that empty lot?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
houses back up to
Long Street.
Long
Farm.
Street,
Okay.
and then up next to the by the vet.
Okay, I didn't know if we were,
Basically, yeah, from
Yeah.
Dennis all the way to the vet.
Yes.
yeah, I didn't know if we were readdressing where they want to place that circle by the,
No,
yeah.
we haven't. I haven't heard anything about the
Project,
traffic
yeah, That's
circle.
meters out,
That-
John
yeah, that's
Marshall
outside.
Commons, I think?
Same,
Yeah.
same builder, different project.
No, that's just for disclosure, that project's next to my house.
So, the signs went up for the new public hearing, correct? So they will be coming back with their
The red was very dramatic, I noticed that,
public hearing
or orange.
for the project again, with its new design. And then the council's waiting to get our bylaws and,
A couple things coming through.
Questions?
As usual, I didn't have a chance to make it to the Christmas celebration. How'd that go?
I
Was that
didn't
considered
have
a
to ask
success?
Your
Mhm.
party,
Yeah.
party at your house? Yeah, I wasn't able to make it either.
Good.
You guys, nobody next to you guys
I did have a quick follow-up question, Mr. Chairman, that, Ms. Pardo, is there a contractor gonna start painting anytime soon?
weather permitting, they are gonna repaint the roof to the color it previously was.
And then finish the
Original
siding?
color.
It's supposed to
And
snow
finish
with a
the siding.
Saturday, so.
She's also been having some contractor issues, so she's trying to get everything squared away and find a trustworthy worker.
Morales, they're still moving, I guess they're just finishing the interior renovations first?
Yeah, they're working on interior stuff, and they're with the building department getting some things squared away.
Okay, that's it?
Motion to adjourn.
Got it. Motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We adjourn this meeting at 19 after 8.